This witness turned the tables on the progressives.
Mr. Jablonski, I understand you have a video that you wish to show to begin with.
Yes, please.
During a House hearing, this man exposed the consequences of the Democrats' criminal justice reforms, even playing footage of himself being assaulted on his own property. But what happened next made the whole situation way worse.
And then on top of everything else, he gets 8 months, and my 5-year-old tells me when I drop him off at school every day to be safe.
And today, we're covering it all. So, here we go.
I understand I'm born here, been in the bar industry for 25 years. I've seen the craziest things you can imagine. In the last 2-3 years, the brazenness of the violent acts that are going on in the city, but just around in general, have gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. And now that I've been through the whole process from start to finish, you could enact whatever law you want. We could have 1,000 new gun laws. We could have 1,000 new police officers. You could throw millions at this DA's office. If nobody's going to do their job and prosecute and hold people accountable, what's the point?
To give a little bit of context before we watch the clip, this man's name is Gaynor Jablonski, and he is the owner of a pub in DC. So one day, a DoorDash driver walked into his establishment, started this confrontation while carrying a firearm illegally, all while Jablonski's 4-year-old son sat just a few inches away at the table, and then simply walked out. What's worse is that after this all happened, the guy who did it got 8 months in jail, and it came after a whole lot of mental gymnastics from the DC District Attorney's Office. Now, we have all the facts out of the way. Let's just look at how it unfolded as Jablonski played the footage before Congress.
Is the 5 minutes running, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it's running.
For a split second, that firearm was pointed in the direction of a minor. On top of that, the bystanders did absolutely nothing. Why? Because people have watched what happened in cases like Daniel Penny's, who intervened to stop a disturbed man who was threatening subway passengers in New York City, only to spend nearly 19 months fighting legal battles to clear his name. Sure, the former Marine was ultimately acquitted, but the fact that he had to go through that in the first place sends a pretty telling message. It tells ordinary people that stepping in to help could mean years of legal headaches, which is enough to make any would-be Good Samaritan think twice. Going back to Jablonski's case, the district attorney's office only made things worse after the assault. But before we get there, here's a quick word from today's sponsor. Recently, we covered Saga Metals, trading as SAGMF in the US and Saga in Canada, a company we followed closely on the channel. But we're revisiting this story sooner than we expected because in a very short time, it looks like they've hit another home run. What they've accomplished in under 6 months has changed the scale of this company. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga announced a 100% drill success rate across all 57 drill holes, achieving it ahead of schedule. And that's only part of the story. They also secured $10 million through a financing round dedicated entirely to drilling, adding major capital to an already aggressive program. They also secured a strategic titanium acquisition right from under Rio Tinto, a mining giant worth over $100 billion, in the same district as the world's largest titanium mine. On top of that, the Wolverine project expanded their footprint even further in one of the most significant mineral corridors in the region. So why is this happening so fast? Simple titanium and critical minerals are now central to national security. With Project Vault, executive orders, and billions in federal backing, Washington is pushing to secure domestic supply chains. Plus, a State Department ministerial is bringing together 55 foreign ministers focused directly on critical minerals. So Saga is positioning itself directly where policy, capital, and defense demand are moving. And so far, they've over-delivered in the first half of 2026. So if you want to learn more about this story, check out the link in the description. Now, back to the video.
As horrific as that video is, what happened after was even worse. He was arrested. We found out he was a DoorDash driver, and no reason why he acted that way. Still no reason. Within 10 days of him being arrested, after numerous conversations with the DA office saying that I would do anything they needed to not plead this down, there was numerous eyewitnesses. There's a loaded 9mm, it's kind of hard to see there, that was pointed at my son. Not only was it loaded, there was one in the chamber. When I knocked it out of his pants, luckily it didn't go off, because it could have killed someone. The DA told me that they had to take into account their resources and my resources, and that they would plead this down to a attempted assault with a dangerous weapon and illegal possession of a firearm.
Yep. It's almost like they completely ignored the fact that this wasn't merely an attempted assault. It actually happened, and there's video evidence showing exactly what took place. Now, the way both the DA and the judge acted in this case, that is something else. For starters, the DA offered the guy who committed the assault a plea deal, which he accepted, and was released from custody until sentencing. As far as the judge, he seemed far from convinced by the prosecutor's arguments, reportedly saying in court, even the government, I would bet $100 million, is going to, at the very worst, ask for a split sentence. And so, I do need to see how he does on release in order to consider my sentence in this case. Eventually, the story became a major issue across DC, but one could argue that justice wasn't fully served.
How does that take into account the endangerment of a minor? I was told that DC does not have a law for endangerment of a minor. After all that, I asked, okay, well, what's the sentencing guidelines you're asking for? 12 to 18 months. I went to the sentencing date. He was released on his own recognizances, basically. Went to the sentencing date, made a victim impact statement, and without a doubt in my mind, if I didn't do that, his attorney was asking for divergence, and he probably wouldn't released. So out of this entire situation, I now have bad publicity for my own business, because people now are worried that there's somebody on the street walking around with a gun, because it's 2:30 in the afternoon. And then on top of everything else, he gets 8 months, and I'm left with explaining to my 5-year-old that why I had to fight this man. And my 5-year-old tells me when I drop him off at school every day to be safe.
This is exactly why so many people are calling for a return to a tougher approach on crime. As Adam Smith famously put, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent. At some point, if violent offenders keep receiving light sentences and getting sent right back onto the streets, the consequences become impossible to ignore. It tells others that the risk is worth taking. And when enough people start believing that, public order begins to break down. Just take a look at these so-called teen takeovers popping up in cities across the country. And the broader point becomes pretty obvious. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this story, Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, you heard it here at the Dais.